Good evening, everyone. Today, we are going to learn a beautiful short story titled Thank You, Ma'am. The story was written by famous American short story writer Langston Hughes. Before going to the story, we have a look into the author's profile. Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes was one of the most influential American writers of the 20th century and a central figure of the Harlem Renaissance. Born on February 1, 1901 in Joplin, Missouri, Hughes became a powerful voice of African Americans through his poetry, prose, and plays. His writings reflected the real experiences, struggles, dreams, emotions of black people in the United States. Hughes is best known for his poetry, which is characterized by simple language, rhythmic patterns, and strong emotional appeal. He often drew inspiration from jazz and blues music, creating poems that sounded musical and conversational. One of his earliest and most famous poems, The Negro Speaks of Rivers, reflects pride in African heritage and history. Another well known poem, I Too Speaks about racial segregation while expressing hope for equality and acceptance. Okay, this was the introduction of the writer Langston Hughes. Okay, he was one of famous African American writer and he strongly protested against the racial segregation prevailing in the United States, and most of his works dealt with themes of family relationships and racial segregation. Okay, now let's move into the introduction of the story. Okay, Thank You Ma'am is a short story by Langston Hughes, first published in 1950. Actually, this work was first published in 1958. So, Hughes, a key figure of the Harlem Renaissance, often wrote about themes of racial identity, social justice, and the struggles of African Americans. So, most of his works dealt with the themes of racial discrimination and social justice, and also he vividly portrays the struggles and the experiences of especially the Africans living in the United States. Okay, our story Thank You Ma'am, which was set in an urban environment, city environment, reflects the realities of poverty, crime, and the power of kindness in shaping a young person's future. This story dealt with themes of poverty, financial struggles, and crime, and the power of kindness. These are the central themes of this famous story. Thank You Ma'am. Now, move on to the major incidents that happened in the story. Okay. Attempted theft. The story begins on a late evening when a teenage boy, Roger, tries to snatch the purse of Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones, an elderly woman walking alone. However, his attempt fails when the large purse causes him to stumble and fall. Instead of running away, Roger finds himself at the mercy of Mrs. Jones. So, in this story, there is two main characters. Who are the main characters? Here, Roger is the first central character, and the second character is the Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. Actually, Roger is around 40 or 15 years old young boy, and Luella Bates is an old lady. These are the two main characters in this story. Okay, now look at the second one. Mrs. Jones takes control. Rather than calling the police or punishing Roger, Mrs. Jones firmly grabs him and scolds him. She notices that he is dirty and unkempt, which makes her realize that he might be neglected or struggling. She does not ask for an apology, but instead chooses to take him home. A lesson of kindness. At her home, Mrs. Jones instructs Roger to wash his face and then cooks a meal for him. Okay, Roger, surprised by her kindness, is tempted to run but ultimately decides to stay. During their conversation, Mrs. Jones shares that she too made mistakes in her youth, implying that everyone deserves a second chance. A gift of trust. That is the final incident. Roger confesses that he wanted to steal the purse to buy a pair of blue shoes. So, why Roger tried to snatch this lady's purse? Because he wanted to buy a purse. For what purpose? In order to buy a blue shoes, beautiful blue shoes, revealing his desperation. Mrs. Jones, instead of judging him, Mrs. Jones, what did she did? She didn't judge him. Gives him $10 to buy the shoes. She handed over $10 to Roger to buy the blue shoes, his favorite blue shoes. This act of generosity leaves Roger speechless. As he prepares to leave, he struggles to find the word to thank her properly, managing only a simple "Thank you, ma'am" before she closes the door. Okay. Roger expresses gratitude to these two words. What are the two words? Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Now go to the major themes in the story. The first theme is compassion and second chances. And the second one, trust and redemption. And the one of the central theme is poverty. The story suggests that poverty can push individuals into crime. Even though Roger is a poor guy, he tried to steal the money of people in order to live. So, poverty can push individuals into crime. The last theme is parental influence and guidance. Mrs. Jones acts as a mother figure, filling the gap in Roger's life. Actually, this boy, Roger, he didn't have a family, so Mrs. Jones acts as a motherly figure to Roger. She advises, she guides him. She provides discipline, care, wisdom, showing the importance of positive role models. She shown him his light of happy life in Roger's life. Okay, now it's time to move on the conclusion part. Thank You Ma'am is a powerful short story that highlights the impact of kindness, trust and moral guidance. Okay, which are the central themes in the story? Kindness, trust and moral guidance. Hux delivers a simple yet profound message. Compassion can transform lives more effectively than punishment. By choosing to guide rather than condemn, Mrs. Jones offers Roger a chance to learn from his mistakes and move toward a better future. The story remains timeless, relevant across generations, and a reminder that small acts of kindness can have lasting effects. Okay. Now move on to the glossary, where you can see a word front, which means a facial expression of displeasure. That is a unhappy face. Now it's time for review questions for students. The first question, that what did the lady do when the boy fell down? She suddenly grabs the boy Roger. Okay. The second question, why did Roger snatch the pocketbook? He tried to snatch the lady's purse or pocketbook in order to get money. For what purpose? To buy beautiful blue shoes. How does Mrs. Jones treat Roger at the table? Mrs. Jones gives him meal and food, and she takes care of Roger. Okay. Now it's time for an follow-up activity for students. You have to write this question and answer it. Question. Mrs. John was extremely happy that she could guide a young lad like Roger on the right path. She shares her experience with one of her friends through an email. Write the likely email. Okay. Thank you.